Hey everyone. So today's Tuesday, so let's make a tool. So today I'm going to be making box tongs. So if you're not familiar with what a box tongs is, I actually don't have a pair, hence why I'm making one. So imagine a flat bit tongs like this, but on one side they have a little bit of, I want to say, wings or little pieces that come up. And that is so when you're dealing with flat stock, such as, working with a file, when you're using a flat bit tongs, it wants to slide back and forth like this, and those little wings will keep it locked in place. Now, I do have tongs that I made for a flat bar, which I did a video on them, which are shaped like this. The only reason why I don't like these guys is that they've locked into pieces too many times when I'm using them. So I'm gonna do box tongs, hopefully stop it from locking in. Now, I'm gonna be using 3/4 inch square, and I have marked them out. So on bar number 1, this is gonna be the one with the wings. It's got 3/4 of an inch from the end. I put a little notch, or the thickness of the steel down, and then another 1.5 inches from that first mark. I put one on the opposite side, and that's just with a center punch. So one length of the steel, or thickness of the steel, and then from the end, 3 lengths. That's the first bar. Now on the second bar, we're going to have a different mark because we don't have to make the wings with the second bar. So that is 2 inches down for my particular piece, being 3/4. Now I might not need all this, but I'd rather have a little bit longer and be able to cut it off than not having long enough. So yeah, I'm going to be using the press today a little bit when I draw out the reins, just because of time. I'm going to do it on the press. Oh, I'm going to need my safety glasses. Where are they? Oh, there they are. So we get those bars up to a good heat and we'll get going. So yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day today. I love it. But right now we're going through the thaw, so like everything is like soupy, and I got clay soil, so like everything is just soupy and sloppy. The dog is constantly getting bathed and everything, so yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So right now I'm only streaming on YouTube. I am planning on adding Twitch as well in the coming days, weeks kind of thing. Just not used to Twitch yet, so I want to get myself a little familiar with it before adding that onto the live stream as well. So yeah. Now, if you're catching this after the live stream and you have ideas for like future streams, why don't you put it in the comments down below, and we'll see if we can add that into the repertoire here at the shop. So as I alluded to, on Tuesdays, I'm probably going to be doing tools for my shop. I've kind of need to get tooled up a little bit more, especially for me to take on some custom work. I've been very limited with my tools, and I've kind of kept my tools to what I normally sell, and it's kind of limited me a little bit. And I've been able to get through, but it would be a lot better if I actually have proper tools. If you caught the live stream, you noticed yesterday, if you caught the live stream yesterday, you noticed that at the end of the stream, I annealed some files. Well, I'll be doing a project with those later this week. So I gotta get these tongs so I can hold that better. Previously, when I was doing stuff with files like that, I'd be using either those knife holding tongs that I made a couple of years ago. Like I said, they keep on snagging. So it's not, I constantly have to tweak them and modify them to get them to hold. So I kind of want to make a pair of tongs just for the files that I normally use. So because both of these pieces are going to be different, how I make the nibs on it, it will be very evident very quickly which one I'm working on. So I'm going to try and tell you which one I'm working on, but I might slip up and not tell you. So yeah, it's going to be very evident because one bar is going to have a piece isolated on the end, and the other bar is just going to be flat out, much like a flat nib would be. Now, because I'm using 3/4, I got the big hammer out. This is my 3-pounder. I'm also going to be running the forge a little bit hotter than I have the last couple of streams, just because I want to get these heated up real nice and hot. Yeah, makes it a lot easier to work it when it's hot, really hot. We're getting there. We're getting there. So this one is going to be the one that we isolate the steel at the tip. And I have my mark somewhere. Where's my mark? So I'm going to put the mark against the edge of the anvil, and I'm going to do half on, half off. And I'm going to make sure that I keep it up against that shoulder. And once in a while, come back, and we want to keep this plane of the steel the same thickness. And I'm doing a slight raise off the anvil. Get a heat on that. And I'm going to bring you down to the anvil so you can see better. Now this one we're going to forge it like we would with flat bit tongs as soon as I find my mark. I swear I marked this. Where's the mark? Oh, here we go. So, close side of the anvil at your mark, slight down. We're going to go and start making that little indent. We want to make sure that we keep it in the shoulder. And we're going to keep the thickness the same. We're going to go back to the first piece. This is going to be on the far side of the anvil. We're going to go back. We're going to work this down until it's about half the thickness. And then we're going to find our other mark. We're going to go onto the near side of the anvil with the little bulge up. And we're going to hit that into the shoulder. And we're going to keep on working it back and forth between these two spots, keeping the thickness of the material the same. And if it's getting a little harder to work, put it back in the forge. Like I said, it's so much easier to work it when it's hot. So we're going back to the second piece. We're going to go back near side of the anvil. We're going to start flattening this out. Making sure that we keep the thickness on the width of the material the same. And we're going to bring this down to about half the thickness of the steel. It's been a while since I forged like this. So this is the first piece, far side of the anvil, then come back to the near side of the anvil. Straighten out everything. Like I said, we're going to work this until the thickness between these two little nubs, or whatever you want to call them, is about half the thickness of the parent material. So this is the second one. And now we're just going to flatten the front, in front of the shoulder, until we're about half the thickness of the material. So we're aiming for half the thickness, so about 3/8. Getting there. Well, I gotta take the sweater off. Okay. Again, we're going to continue working this until about halfway of the thickness. Making sure the width of this stays the same as the parent material. Okay, so this piece is almost there. So we're going to do some straightening up. Cleaning up our lines a little bit. And this one, we're almost at the point where we're ready to move on to the hinge plate. So again, I'm just making sure all the lines are straight. Again, we worked this to about half the thickness of the 3/8. Okay, and that one is ready to start doing the hinge plate. Now when I'm saying hinge plate, meaning this spot right here, it's also known as a boss. So that's basically the point where the rivet goes in. Okay, so on the first pair of tongs, or the first set of tongs, we want to go 45 degrees, and we're going to set down half on, half off of the anvil. And then we're going to work this down to about half the thickness of the steel, making sure that we straighten up stuff as we go. It does make it easier. Now with this one, that's more like a flat bit, we're going to take it, turn it counterclockwise. And like the other one, we're going to do 45-degree angle. We're going to set that shoulder. Have a little bit of an angle up. Now if you do go a little bit off 45, it's okay. You can clean this up with a file afterwards or a grinder. It's going to take some time to straighten that up. And if you are live, I do have chat window up. I will try and answer questions as I can. And we're going to continue working this down until half the thickness of the material. Making sure I keep on my shoulder. Going to start straightening up stuff. Now once I get the shoulder about half the thickness, which I'm almost there now, I'm going to come with the shoulder off, and I'm going to flatten out some of this behind it to establish my hinge plate a little bit more. Straighten up stuff. And basically, from this side right here back, I need at least 1 inch of it flattened, smooth to 3/8 or half the thickness. Now that I got the thickness in here, roughly where I want it, I'm gonna go make sure everything is nice and straight. Now normally at this point I would let it cool so I can mark out my 1 inch, but for the sake of live, I'm going to take and put a little mark on my anvil at the 1 inch mark, roughly. And what I want is 1 inch from this inside, or the most in part of that little shoulder that you made, or I made. Woo! That's getting a little warm. And I'm just using a center punch to put a little tiny mark so I know where my 1 inch is. Now this hinge plate still needs a little bit of dressing on it. Then we're going to make sure my shoulder's still good, which it is. Make sure my nib didn't get out of the way. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. I'm just going to put a little center punch mark at 1 inch. And yes, it is warm. Here we go. Back in the forge. So the steel's getting a little warm right now, so I am going to be putting a glove on my left hand. And that's okay. So we're going to find our mark, far side of the anvil. And we're going to have all this nib part facing down towards the anvil. On a slight angle up. And we're going to do half on, half off. We're going to work this down to about 3/8, half inch, 3/8. We're going to come back in, make sure everything's clean, straighten it up as need be. The same thing with this guy. Going to find our mark, nib side down, slight angle up. We're going to do half on, half off. Every so often coming in, flattening that side down. As things get out of, come in and straighten it. As things want to move around when it's hot. And again, we're looking for about 3/8 to half inch. We're almost there with this one. We're going to go in and straighten up everything. And then to draw these out, like I said, the reins are going to get drawn out with the press just because of time that I have. If you are drawing out your reins yourself, so that's basically the handle, you can draw it out over top of your horn or bit. It does make the movement of the steel faster. Just keep it hot. So we're almost there with this one. So I'm just going to go in, straighten up everything. And now we're ready to draw out those reins. So I'm going to switch you up to the press. So this is the first time filming with this setup with the press, so I apologize if it's not the best picture. And for this, I'm just going to use my flat dies. And when I'm doing this, I'm just going to make sure that I don't ruin any of my shoulders that I've nicely set. And I don't need this whole bar, I already know that. And I'm bringing basically the thickness of this to about 3/8. Now I'm just going to wait for a good heat on those. The press does take a lot of heat out of the steel when being used. So I want to make sure I get a good heat. And I'm just clearing off any scale off my dies so I don't push it into the piece while I'm working it. And while I'm waiting for it to heat up, I'm going to get my hot cut out. I do plan on cutting these reins off to the length I want. getting close. I think one more heat on them and I think the reins will be drawn out enough. Now what I want to do is, got a little bit of a rhombus going on, so I lost my square a little bit. So I'm just going to knock down the corner, the high corner, and try and straighten that out. So now that the reins are drawn out pretty well where I want them, they still have a little bit of work to do, but they're not bad. I'm going to cut it off, and then if I do need to stretch them or anything like that, I will do it as I see fit. I'm not going to go all the way through this on the hot cut because I don't want the piece flying. So I'm going to go most of the way. And I'm going to break it off by holding it down with my hammer. Now I'm going to put it actually reins in first. I'm going to do that with the second one. And again with this one, I'm going to put the reins in. I want to draw those out just ever so slightly more. So we'll go back to the press. See if I can get you over there. Yeah. We'll just do it with that camera. Hopefully I'm not going to be in the way. So this is going to be one of these ones where I'm going to be flipping tongs around depending on what piece I'm using. Just because of that nub in the back. I don't even know if you can see what I'm doing over there. I guess so. So I got, again, a little bit of rhombus showing its little evil head. So I just took it down on the corner. We're almost there. Just checking what time we're at. now I got the length I want. I'm just going to take the corners down, just round it up a little bit. Just make it a little bit nicer in the hand. Going to take it over to the anvil, do any straightening I need to do on it. Not too worried about straightening at this point in time. Get my hot cut out of here. So the reins are pretty well. I can clean those up a little bit more as I need to, but I think at this point they're pretty good where they are. So that one's done. I am gonna, while this is still relatively cool, before putting it back in the fire, I'm gonna actually put a little center dot with my center punch in the middle of the hinge plate or boss, whatever you want to call it. Double checking that I'm actually in center. And then I'm going to flip this around so I can get back the nibs in the fire. And we're going to finish up the reins on this one. Now if the reins don't match perfectly length, that's okay. We can clean that up afterwards, even if it is just grinding one off, like cutting it with a zip cut. Now I'm just rounding off the corners a little bit. Also trying to, again, it went to a little bit of a rhombus, so I'm trying to straighten that out as well. Yep. Now I'm just going to take some time and straighten this out a little bit. You might notice a little bit of dimples on my piece here. My flat die on the top for the press needs a little dressing. It got a little dimple put into it, so I'm going to have to grind that out shortly. And we're going to flip this around. And have the nib part the hinge plate into the forge. Oh, Evil Twin X! Oh, if I could replace the press with a power hammer. Yes, 100% yes. With that said, it all depends on what you let me flip the, oh no, I got the right camera. It all depends on what you want to do. If the press is really good at moving steel, big chunks of steel quickly in one direction. Power hammer by far is more versatile. And if you're one of the people that want to get into doing more custom work, then yeah, a power hammer definitely is better. In my situation, I can't do that. My shop is currently really close to my neighbors. So, and also my cement for the floor is only about 3-4 inches. So I would actually have to dig up the floor to even put the smallest power hammer in. So yeah, it's one of those things. Yes, I would love a power hammer, but I would have to move. And as for which power hammer, I would prefer the all-in-one pneumatic one. I have used the tire power hammer, and you just have, I found I had more control with the all-in-one pneumatic ones. Yeah. But I know some people that are really good with those, like, you know, the kind of little giant kind of ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up the hinge plate a little bit. And I'm going to bring down as far as I can. And I'm going to do light taps. 2 reasons why I'm doing this. One, it makes your hinge plate look a little neater. But also, it causes your nib to kick out a little bit from your reins. So it is a little bit easier to line up everything. So now I'm just dressing everything, making sure everything's straight. And then on my next heat, I'm going to actually punch that hole. And the same with this guy. I'm going to come as low as I can, and I'm just giving light taps on the top. Flatten it out again, coming back in. And as I'm hitting, I'm rolling up. Now I'm going to straighten everything up. Now at this point, I'm going to leave this guy aside while I put the hole in the other one, because where the hole lands in the other one is where I'm going to put the hole in this one. And I might be a little off center, so we'll do it that way. We're going to be using my little hole punch. And unfortunately, I heated this up a little bit longer than I should have, as in back in the reins. So this is going to be a little bit more interesting than normal. Beep. Okay. Just remember not to pick it up with my hands. So I'm going to start my mark based on my center punch. Okay. Come on, don't fall. And I'm gonna quench my punch. And I'm gonna go in, almost all the way through. And actually, because I was messing around trying to get this on, it cooled down a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go back in the forge with that. It happens. Whew. Oh, I quenched my tip of the punch. And as for a rivet, I'm going to be using a 5/16 rivet on this guy. So, yeah. Do I have a piece cut? We'll worry about that when we get there. So if you're watching afterwards and about a power hammer, you can get more work done, like moving around the steel, than a press. Like I said, a press is good for moving steel in one direction. But the dies do suck up a good amount of heat. So now what I'm doing, I'm trying to find where the punch started going through. And I'm going to come, and hopefully I can line it up. I'm just going to check. Make sure I'm lining up okay. Yep. And when I get close to the end, I'm going to put it over my puncher hole, and hopefully it'll come right out. Yeah, I think I can punch that through. Now what you don't want to do is go back and try and go back the first way you went. If you do that, you're going to end up messing up your hole more than you want. There's a nice clean hole. Now, I know that is not going to be 5/8, so I'm going to drift that a little bit bigger. Now normally, with tongs, I don't punch the holes. Normally I actually let them cool down, drill a hole in them. I know some people are like, oh my, yeah. I'm doing this for you guys. Also, I would let steel cool down while I'm doing stuff. I'm just going to drift this until about 5/8. And do I have a 5/8 piece to check? Yep. So that hole is good. I'm gonna do something that I normally wouldn't do, and that's just quench it, just to cool it off a little bit. Because now I'm gonna use this one to line up where I'm gonna put the hole for the second one. So I'm just gonna cool it off both sides so I can handle it a little easier. Like I said, normally I won't do this. You never know, even though it's mild steel, there is a slight possibility that you could somehow harden it. Slight possibility. So it's better to caution on, you know, error than not. So, actually, I need to quench the second side of this. Unfortunately, because we're just getting past the freezing temperature around here, I still don't have my big quench tank of water. So I'm stuck using a little bucket. So what I'm going to do here is just line them up the best I can. And at this point, they might not fit perfectly. We can file that down afterwards. Gonna line it up. Woo! There's still some heat in that one. Woo-hoo. Gonna line it up. Take my center punch. And then we're just gonna deepen that center punch. Like that, and then that guy's going to go into the forge so we can punch that hole. And this guy we're just going to set aside for now. Now as for my rivet, the normal rule of thumb is you want, on either side of your tongs, you want 1.5 of the thickness of your rivet. And because I went for roughly 1 inch in total, so 1/2 inch on one side, 1/2 inch on the other, so I just basically want to add another, oh no, I gotta do math. 7/16, 8/16. Well, 8/16 is 1/2, so. So basically I'm cutting this. I'm gonna do 2 1/4, just in case if my tongs are not perfect. And I'm gonna quickly do this on my bandsaw. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can just use, you know, your normal zip cut. You can even just hot cut this with the forge. Sorry, my blade is getting a little tired on my bandsaw, so it's taking a little bit longer than I want. Just double checking the size. Yep. So I'm trying 2 1/4. When I start getting the rivet set, I can check to make sure that the length is right. So we're going to punch the hole on this one. Line up the center, my center punch mark. Do a hit, double check. Fix it up if you need to. Okay, I'm going to take another heat on that. And what you don't want to do when punching a hole is keep your punch up against the material between hits. Lift it up, realign it, hit it down. If you do, it keeps the punch away from the heat so you don't ruin your tip as fast. But also if you do hit it and it jumps on your next blow. So I'm just straightening up everything. Got a little bit out of whack here. Definitely straightening as you go makes it easier. Where are we at time-wise? Whoa, whoa, pulling it tight. Let's finish this hole off. Now that we're most of the way through, go in the back, try and find our mark. And you'd normally get a dark spot because the anvil pulled the heat out of that little tiny piece. So we're going to hit it, and I'm going to double check to make sure I'm in line. It looks like I am. And we're going to try and drive this home. And as I get closer to the end, I'm going to move it over to my hole. I'm going to drive that home. Come on. Almost there. There we go. I have no idea where that flew to. There we go. Now we're going to drift that to the 5/8. Now if you don't have a drift that is 5/8 or you can't go to 5/8, you can just take a piece of 5/8 rod, taper the end on one side, and taper the other end slightly, take a little chamfer on it, and you can drive that through. Oh no! Did I lose my stream? No, no, it says I'm still on. Sorry. Okay. Gonna get this drifted the rest of the way. just going to take the piece I just cut from my rivet, make sure, yeah, we're good. Okay, so I'm gonna first straighten this up because it's got a little weird on me. I'm gonna heat that up so I can straighten that nib out. The nib kind of, woohoo. Whew. While I'm doing that, let's get the rivet heated up. So I'm gonna just try and get just the tip of this rivet heated, which is easier said than done in this forge. And what I actually might do is when I take it out of the forge, I might actually quench to one side. I almost forgot something. We gotta do the wings. Woo. Okay, so the whole reason this actually is a box tong is because we gotta make the wings around this. So I gotta flatten that out. So I'll take the rivet out right now. I don't need that yet. Oh, live streams. That stuff I would just edit out of the video. So for this, we're going to be using a cross peen hammer. We're going to be using the cross peen of the cross peen hammer to spread that out. I'm gonna open the door. It's getting warm in here. How hot is it? 30 degrees. I'm gonna open up the upstairs window too. Oh, that feels so nice. Whew. Yeah. It's been a while since it's been this warm in the shop, so I better get used to it, I guess. Don't mind me, I'm just checking on my propane. You probably could hear the forge was dying down a little bit. It's getting a little frosty over there. Woo. Oh, I need to... Let's get you moved over a little bit. Yeah, other way. Okay, so with that little isolation up, we're going to start in the center with our cross peen and hopefully actually hit the piece. And we're going to start spreading that out. What we're trying to do is draw that out. I want to keep a good heat on that. Okay, we're coming out with the cross peen of the cross peen hammer, and we're just spreading that out, going from the center first, and then slowly working that out. Once in a while, I'm going to come in on the edge of the anvil, and I'm going to start bringing that in a little bit. I don't need the length outwards. And this will take you a couple of heats. Don't feel like you have to do it all in one. Do a little cleanup while I'm waiting. Now when you're hitting it back in like that, if you notice one side kicking more than the other, flip it around. Now that I got it spread most of the way where I want, I'm going to actually use the flat of the hammer just to smooth that out a little bit. Look at a blister. What's that all about? Whoa. I have not done enough foraging in the wintertime, I guess. Now don't thin this out too much, because you still want enough meat there to hold up everything. And because I'm going to use this for a file eventually, I'm double checking my size. And yeah, we got more than enough meat on that. More than enough meat to wrap around that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put those wings upright. Yeah. And for this, I'm probably going to use the vise. Just so I can get a little bit nicer, clean fold on it. I don't need the 3-pounder. I'm going to go back to a 2-pounder. Maybe that's a 2.5. Oh, let me move you over to the vise so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to grab it in the vise roughly where I want that fold to start. And then I'm just going to start folding that over. Double check my line. If I need to adjust, I will. Get enough heat on that. I was a little off. I wanted to slide down when I was hitting it, so. And when I'm hitting it, I'm doing blows this way, kind of more of a glancing blow than actually straight down. So that's the one side, fold it down, and then I'm going to come in and do the opposite on the other side. Right now it kind of looks like a hammerhead shark. It's been a while since I forged like this. So we're going to go on the other side now, clamp it in the vise. Now we're going to make sure that we're going the same direction, which happens to be the side that the reins are mostly on. And if it does slide down, pick it back up. Now we don't have to be perfect on here. We will be doing adjustments for this once we get it riveted together. But that will get you a good start. You might find that if you did that before, like after riveting, that it actually is a pain in the butt. So I like to do it. I like to do as much of my nib while they're apart. So right now what I'm doing is I'm checking my shoulders on the plates to see how they're lining up. And I can guarantee you right now they're not going to line up very nicely. I have some extra material in there that I need to get rid of. Now that can be done easily with a grinder or a file. I think for my case, I'm going to use a grinder. And I'm just going to put a flap disc on here. And like I said, you could use a file to clean this. I'm probably going to clean up the other one as well. Now, obviously, the more practice you have at doing tongs, the less chance you actually have to do this. Also, it depends on how good your rounded off shoulders are for the anvil. I still got a little bit too much meat in this one. Now don't go too crazy with the grinding. Take off a little bit, check out the size. Because it's easier to take off more than it is to put back. Also, if I need to, I'm going to round off my hinge plate. Just a little bit more in this one. Okay, I think I can work with that. And one thing I normally do is, when I get to this stage, I'll actually take like a regular bolt, like a 5/16 bolt, and actually put a bolt in there just to see how the action is. This one, I'm just gonna go for it. Just need a little bit more in there. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to get my rivet now in get my rivet into the forge. Hi John, how you doing? Welcome to this bright sunny day. We're making box tongs, by the way. I'm almost done, actually. I'm just about to set the rivet on it. Don't mind me if I just clean up a little bit more as I go. I'm waiting for that rivet to go. Get nice and hot. Right at this point in time, I'm not worried about the nibs not touching or going into each other. I'm more worried about how that hinge is working. Because this is the time when you can change it if you need to. It's the thing, the more I look at it, the more I want to fix it. And to be honest, sometimes a file is the best way to go with tongs, just because it's a nice flat and you can get a nice sharp corner as opposed to a grinder. I think we're good. So I want everything ready. Once that rivet comes out, I'm ready to go. Now when I punch this hole, I deliberately made it slightly bigger than what I'm using for my rivet, because the rivet will expand a little bit when it is hot. And then I'm going to hold my tongs a little bit above the anvil as best as I can and try and hit this down to start upsetting it. Straighten it out as much as I can. And I already know I grabbed a little bit too much material for that rivet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind down a little bit of that rivet, because I know I got too much. Now, one side of my rivet did go a little bit off, so I'm going to try and hit that back down and center that up a little bit. So it is at one of the colder temperatures. I'm trying to straighten that back up. Still have a little bit too much material on my rivet. Okay, now that I got that rivet set, I'm going to heat this up so I can actually, we'll clean up this side a little bit too. Okay, now I'm going to heat up this whole thing, rivet forward to the nibs. And that way I can make everything align and all purty. I'm pretty sure this is going to be hot on both handles, so double glove it. Now we're not looking for a massive heat here. We're just looking for kind of an orange, reddish orange heat. We're just going to move these about to make sure that they all are nice. If my reins are out a little bit, which one is, I'm going to take some time and fix that. This rein still needs to be brought out a little bit, so I'm going to see if I can grab it in the vise and do so. Get my hammer out. See if I can whack this a little bit. Okay. Gonna tighten that rivet a little bit because it has loosened up. Gonna see how the feel is. Okay. Now I'm gonna heat up the nibs and get my file out so I can actually adjust it to the files. Now this would definitely be easier if I had a helper, but I'm sure I can figure it out. And how we're going to adjust it for the file, you're going to put it in, the file in, to roughly where I want it to be. I'm just going to whack the sides down. We're going to keep on, we're going to rotate it, whack the side down, rotate it, whack the side down. We're going to try and get that, the long one, in the center of it. Just like that. Now this is not the cleanest pair of tongs I've made. We can definitely clean them up. There we go. Yeah, that's nice and tight. Feels nice and tight. And now I'm just quenching them and moving them around just to get them moving nicely I kind of like my tongs where if you let them go and shake them a little bit, they do open up a little bit. There we go. There we go. Well, that's it. I probably will wire wheel these, put some nice boiled linseed oil on it, maybe clean up the little roughness here. And yeah, but that's the show today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for coming out, and I'll see you on the next one.